Just a week into my marriage, I found a hidden will in my wife's drawer. 7 days. That's all it took for my perfect newlywed bubble to burst, not with a fight or a misunderstanding, but with a piece of paper that exposed a betrayal I never saw coming. My name is Mark, I'm 35, and just a week into my marriage with Olivia, 32, I found a hidden will in her drawer, a will that named another man as her primary beneficiary. We had the kind of love story people write songs about. I met Olivia at a charity gala 2 years ago. She was radiant, intelligent, a successful architect with a passion for humanitarian work. I was a freelance journalist, always chasing stories, but with her, I felt like I'd found my own. Our connection was instant, deep, and felt destined. We spent every waking moment together, talking about dreams, sharing secrets, building a future brick by emotional brick. Our wedding, just last Saturday, was a fairy tale. Intimate, joyous, surrounded by our closest friends and family. My best man, Ben, 35, had teased me relentlessly about finally settling down, while my sister, Chloe, 30, shed happy tears. I was sure I had found my forever. We had just returned from a short, blissful honeymoon. The house, usually so orderly, was a delightful mess of unpacked suitcases, wedding gifts, and the lingering scent of fresh flowers. Olivia was at work, trying to catch up after our week away. I decided to unpack her suitcase, wanting to surprise her by getting everything organized. It was a small gesture, born out of love and domestic bliss. I started with the top drawer of her dresser, the one she usually kept her personal effects in. It wasn't messy, but as I reached for a folded scarf, my fingers brushed against something stiff tucked deep at the back. It felt like paper, crisp and official. My curiosity, a journalist's instinct, instantly piqued. I pulled it out. It was an envelope, heavy parchment, with last will and testament, stamped on the front in elegant script. My heart did a little jump. A will. I knew Olivia was organized, but a will after only just getting married. It seemed a bit premature. Still, I thought, maybe she had it from before, and just hadn't updated it. A small, innocent detail. I opened the envelope. Inside, the document was professionally drafted, dated roughly 6 months ago, well into our engagement. My eyes scanned the legalese, looking for my name. After all, as her soon-to-be husband, I should be mentioned, right? The primary beneficiary, and there it was, in bold, clear print, Ethan Thorne. Ethan Thorne, not Mark. My name wasn't there, not as primary beneficiary, not even as a secondary one. The bulk of her significant assets, her apartment, her investments, her considerable savings, were all bequeathed to this, Ethan Thorne. The only thing I was named for was a small life insurance policy, barely enough to cover the funeral. My breath hitched. My entire body went cold. Ethan Thorne. Who was Ethan Thorne? My mind raced through every friend, every colleague, every distant relative she had ever mentioned. No Ethan Thorne. This wasn't an old will. It was written 6 months ago. We were deeply in love, planning our wedding, already living together. And she had secretly drafted a will that left almost everything to another man, completely cutting me out. The paper trembled in my hand. Every memory, every shared laugh, every intimate moment we had ever had, now felt tainted, poisoned. Was our love a lie? Was I just a placeholder? A convenience? I looked around our bedroom, the room we had just shared on our honeymoon, the room where we had made so many plans. It all felt like a stage, and I was merely an actor in a play I didn't understand. My journalistic instincts, usually a source of excitement, now filled me with dread. I knew how to dig, how to uncover secrets. And now, the biggest secret was hidden by the woman sleeping next to me. I shoved the will back into the drawer, trying to make everything look undisturbed. My hands were shaking, my mind a storm of questions and terrifying possibilities. I had to know who Ethan Thorne was. What would you do in this situation? Would you confront her immediately, or would you try to investigate Ethan Thorne first, trying to find answers before revealing your discovery? I chose the latter. I needed information, solid facts, before I blew up my entire life. I couldn't just accuse her based on a document I shouldn't have seen. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I acted normal, laughed at her stories from work, pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was a wreck, constantly replaying the words, Ethan Thorne. That night, she cuddled up to me, talking about our future, our plans for decorating the house. Every loving gesture felt like a fresh stab of betrayal. How could she be so affectionate, so normal, knowing she had this massive secret? The next day, while Olivia was at work, I began my own investigation. It felt dirty, invasive, like something out of a crime novel, but I was desperate. I started with her laptop, something I'd never touched before. I found very little. Her personal files were locked down. Then I tried her office at home, a small, meticulously organized space. I looked through old financial statements, phone bills, anything that might have a clue. Nothing. It was like Ethan Thorne existed only on that will. My frustration mounted. I considered confronting her, just laying the will on the table, demanding an explanation. But what if there was a logical, innocent explanation? A misunderstanding? I clung to that sliver of hope, even as the pit in my stomach grew deeper. A few days later, while she was showering, I decided to check her phone. It felt like crossing the line I never thought I'd cross, but the need for answers was overwhelming. I knew her password. I scrolled through her contacts, her messages, her call logs. And there it was, a contact listed simply as E, with frequent calls and messages. And a recent message, thinking of you, E. See you next week. My blood ran cold. E. It had to be Ethan Thorne. And, see you next week. What did that mean? Another secret meeting. I clicked on their message history. It was all professional, at first. Discussions about a project, a client. But as I scrolled further back, the tone shifted. More personal, more affectionate. And then, a message from 6 months ago, almost exactly the date of the will. I wish things were different, oh. But we always have our memories. Memories. What memories? And, I wish things were different. The implications were devastating. This wasn't just a business contact. This was a deep, intimate connection. I couldn't read anymore. The phone felt like a burning coal in my hand. I placed it back, trying to compose myself. My perfect marriage, my perfect wife, was unraveling before my eyes. That evening, I finally confronted her. It was after dinner, the dishes were cleared, and we were sitting on the sofa, just like any other night. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Olivia, I began, my voice surprisingly steady. I was unpacking your suitcase the other day. I found something. Her eyes, usually so warm and open, instantly flickered with a guarded expression. Oh, what did you find? I went to the drawer, pulled out the will, and placed it on the coffee table between us. I watched her face as she saw the document. The color drained from her cheeks, her eyes widening in disbelief, then horror. Mark, I can explain, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Explain, Ethan Thorne, I said, my voice raw with emotion. Explain why you wrote a will 6 months ago, leaving everything to him, not to your fiancé, not to your husband. Tears welled in her eyes. She picked up the will, her hands trembling. She didn't deny it, she couldn't. She confessed everything. Ethan Thorne wasn't just a friend or a former lover, he was her late husband. My world shattered for a second time. My wife, a widow. She had never, ever mentioned being married before. Her previous, difficult family situation, was actually a cover story for the profound grief and secret she carried. He died a year and a half before I met you, Mark, she explained, her voice choked with sobs. He was my everything. We were together since college. He died in a climbing accident. It was sudden, horrific. She went on to describe her grief, the overwhelming emptiness, the depression. She couldn't bear to talk about him, to acknowledge his existence to anyone new. Her family, supportive in their own way, had encouraged her to move on, to start fresh, to find happiness again. They had even told her not to mention him to new partners, thinking it would be too much baggage. I tried, Mark, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. So many times, I wanted to tell you about Ethan. But I was so scared. Scared you wouldn't understand. Scared you would think I was still in love with him. Scared you would leave me for having such a painful, complicated past. The will, she explained, was something her lawyer had advised her to do after Ethan's death, an update to her financial affairs. She had simply never changed it, never updated it to include me. It was a leftover from a previous life, a painful reminder she couldn't bring herself to confront. And the texts with E. Those were with Emma, her sister, about a family matter. Her sister's name was Emma, and E. was just a short form. The I wish things were different message from 6 months ago. That was a conversation about a family property sale that went wrong. She had used a generic E. for multiple family members in her phone. The relief that swept through me was immense, but it was quickly followed by a crushing wave of confusion and hurt. She hadn't been having an affair, but she had kept a huge, foundational part of her life completely hidden from me. She had been married before. She was a widow. What would you do now? The immediate threat of infidelity is gone, but a massive lie, a colossal omission, remains. Can you ever truly trust someone who hid such a fundamental truth about their past? Why, Olivia, I asked, the pain in my voice raw. Why couldn't you tell me? Don't you think I deserve to know? Don't you think our love was strong enough to handle your past, no matter how painful? She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I just wanted to be loved, Mark. Truly loved, for who I am now. Not as the grieving widow. I was so afraid. Her fear was real. Her pain was real. Her love for me, I now believed, was real. But the deception, the calculated omission, was also very real. We spent the rest of the night talking, not about Ethan, but about her grief, her fears, her family's role in encouraging her to erase her past. She showed me photos of Ethan, shared stories, finally opened up about the gaping hole in her heart that she had tried to mend with me. It was an overwhelming torrent of information, of emotion. I was marrying a woman who had already lived a lifetime of love and loss. I wasn't just marrying Olivia, I was marrying her past, her grief, her hidden scars. The next few weeks were a delicate dance of rebuilding. I helped her finally update her will, legally removing Ethan Thorne and adding my name. We visited Ethan's grave, a solemn moment where I silently acknowledged the man who had loved her before me. It was strangely healing, a way for me to understand her past, and for her to finally fully step into her present with me. Our marriage, just a week old, had gone through more turmoil than some marriages see in decades. The initial shock of betrayal was now replaced by a deeper understanding, a more complex love. It wasn't the fairy tale I thought it was, but it was real, messy, and profoundly human. I still have the will, tucked away, but it no longer holds the power to terrify me. It's a reminder of the secrets we carry, the burdens we hide, and the immense courage it takes to truly be vulnerable with the person you love. My wife is a widow, but she is also my wife, and together, we are learning to navigate a future built on a foundation of truth, even if that truth was painfully exposed. What do you think? Was her fear of losing me a valid reason to hide such a huge part of her past, or was it an unforgivable betrayal? Could you move forward in a marriage after discovering a secret like this? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about the complexities of love and life.